Well, boys and girls, my final transfer window of FM18 is now complete. Before you go any further in the video, let me know down in the comments how you think I spent the money. Hello and welcome to part 187 of Backing the Boro. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we have... I haven't said this for... these aren't particularly big games. It's a key point. The transfer window's just closed, but to be honest, it's an FA Cup game against West Ham that I don't care if we win, and a Premier League game against Newcastle. And it would be nice to win the Premier League again, but we know that's not the main event. But we will look at the transfers in a second. But first, look at the state of that form since you were last with me. We have been in some good form, and the Premier League actually might be winnable again. If we win this game, that puts us 5 points behind Manchester United with 13 games still to go. It's certainly not all over in the Premier League, but at the same time, it's certainly not our priority. Our real priority is down here at the Carabao Cup final against Tottenham. That's what we really want this season. If we can also do well in the Champions League, we've got a first knockout round game against Hibs. People have been saying in the comments it's time to see what the deal is with Hibs. I don't think there necessarily is a deal with Hibs. They won the Scottish Premier League a couple of times 5 years ago, but they're not even the best team in Scotland now. They're just regulars in the Champions League. I think it's more an indication of what happens in Football Manager the further into it that you get. Can we have a look specifically at Champions League? So yeah, they've been regulars in the Champions League for a long time. But this is what happens when you've played Football Manager for a long, long time. The leagues that you have set up tend to be the ones that start to dominate the game eventually. And we're, 23, 24 seasons in. Scotland is one of the 6 or 7 leagues that we've got loaded. So it's only natural that the Scottish League is going to get better and better. And as a reflection of that, for the last 14 years or so, Hibs have been regulars in the Champions League, even though they're not the best team in Scotland. If we have a look at the Scottish Premiership, though, I haven't checked this, but I assume, there you go, the Scottish Premiership is the 6th best league in the world. Now, I'm fairly confident, I haven't been tracking this stat all the way through, but I'm fairly confident when you load FM18 for the first time, the Scottish Premiership is not the 6th best league in the world. But it's no coincidence that those 6 top leagues are the 6 that I've got loaded in this save. It's just the way the game goes. So let's not read too much into Hibs being a wonder team. They are still Hibs. We should still beat them. Transfers wise, I didn't spend any money. I imagine most of you predicted that. I had plenty to spend, £40 million to spend. Didn't spend a penny of it. We did try. We tried to, in fact, I can't remember his name. We did try and bring a defender in. How did we find Paris Saint-Germain? Because they gazumped us. Paris Saint-Germain stole the one player that I really wanted. Elielson de Carvalho, a 20-year-old Brazilian wonder kid centre-back. I wanted this lad, but they took him away from us, £16.5 million. We had terms agreed with him, and they came in and ruined our day. We have loaned out a couple of players that we probably have finally given up on. Kovacevic and Jokic have both gone out on loan to the Championship. But the real significant thing isn't a transfer, it's the emergence of a hero. Simon Ganley... Okay, he's not now. He got for a week there. He was officially the 2nd best striker at the club on star ratings. He was up to 4 stars, but then he did get a slight injury. But even still, 10 goals from 13 starts in the Premier League, averaging a 7.59, scoring consistently in the cups as well. Simon Ganley is a proper superstar and is keeping Charlie Jones out of the team and Alonso. The two of them not playing regularly at all. Nuhu is having the best season of his life again, 2nd year in a row. Okay, so it's not quite as good as last year. But still, he's our top scorer joint with Piazza. And being a top scorer joint with Piazza at this stage of the season is no mean feat when you consider that Piazza has got 18 goals from 22 appearances in the league. And last time I checked was the Premier League's top scorer. Again, I research the videos before you make them, Kev, for goodness sake. Should we just get into a football match? Because we're playing in the FA Cup, we're going a little bit rotated. So this isn't a typical team. A lot of these faces are familiar, but there's a few players getting a rest. Harry's, David Roberts is done. He's done his cruciate ligament. He's out for the rest of the season now. We won't see him again. More positively, Caminero is back from his broken ankle and might have finally broken the broken bone curse, because he's come back into the team and looks like the same player he was before he was injured. He's still only the 6th best midfielder at the club on star ratings, but I think that's a lot of that is to do with form and the fact he's not played many games. But he might be the first one who's broken something and actually come back and ended up being a half-decent player. But he's going to sit on the bench today with Ganley, with Nuhu, Harris isn't even going to be on the bench. Ripert's going to sit this one out as well because he's got a little bit of a knock. So a little bit of rotation. We've also got an unhappy player. Taraka wants to go to Paris Saint-Germain. They offered £50 million halfway through the transfer window, and we just flat turned it down mainly because they stole the defender we wanted to bring in 3 days before. But also partly because it doesn't matter if he's a little bit grumpy now. We've got 4 months of this series to go. We just need to keep this squad together and hope that this is a squad that's capable of winning the big one. And if that recent form is anything to go by, you've got to think maybe. I mean, look, did I mention we beat Man City 7-2? Let's just have a look at that one. This was a little while ago now. A Piazza hat-trick, 2 from Nuhu. Jones comes off the bench for Nuhu. We went to a 4-3-3 at that point. Jones got 2 goals. 7 goals past Man City. Remember when Man City were good? Not so much anymore. Imagine if we'd have done that in the Champions League last year. We exercised some demons that night, and everything's looked pretty rosy since then. But let's get into the game. We've got Oliveira in goal, a back four, Sretenovic, Taraka, Day and Coupler, with Tate, Ruzic and Barbas in midfield, and Esteban in behind Piazza and Jones. This is the first game Charlie Jones has started for a long time. It's a sad state of affairs that Charlie Jones, who was a hero for so very long, is now probably my 4th choice striker. I think I probably put Alonso ahead of Jones as well. He's playing because it's the FA Cup and we're not that bothered. But also because it gives him an opportunity to get out there, play a full 90 minutes and actually try and play himself back into some form. Because one of the reasons we've not been starting him regularly is because he's always had this thing where his goals come in bursts. He's a bit of an Ashley Chambers in that respect, and we need him to start a burst now. We've got the big Champions League games coming up against Hibs. We've got the Carabao Cup final coming up, which we all know is the one we all really care about. And we've got this Premier League run-in where we're still trying to chase down Man United. It's not going to be enough just to have Piazza, Ganley and Alonso in form. We need 4 real top quality in-form strikers so that we can rotate them around through the huge number of games that we're going to be playing. If we stay in the FA Cup today, that's going to be an FA Cup run on top of the already existing Carabao Cup run, the Champions League Cup run that we need to have, or else everything is a failure and everything's gone wrong. We could play, I don't know, with an FA Cup run as well, we could play 60 or 70 games this season. There was a stat come through in the media saying we only used 20 players in the Premier League this season, which is one of the lowest in the league. So not only are we potentially going to play more games this season than ever before, certainly if the season ends well, we'll play more than we've ever played before in a season. But we're doing it on a fairly small squad. We do have players that just haven't featured at all, the likes of Riley, who sat on the bench today. But the actual first team, Jokic and Kovacevic, are examples of players who previously we might have used, and now neither of them have even sat on a bench this season, so that's why we've loaned them out. But we need Charlie Jones. We need him to be the Charlie Jones of 3 or 4 years ago, and just go out there for the last 3 or 4 months of this save and just score 10 goals. If he gets 10 goals between now and the end of the season, I think we'll win the Champions League because of that. Unless he's getting the 10 goals because Piazza gets injured now and Jones is playing every game and only gets 10 goals in 25 appearances, in which case, take it back. West Ham have had 2 players sent off and we're still not ahead in this game. It's not boding well for Charlie Jones, is it? I said he was going to play a full 90 minutes. He's really not. He's on a 6.4, and in the circumstances, we've got to win this match. We're going to get Ganley on. We're going to get Nuhu on. We're bringing out the big guns, because we've got 20 minutes against 9 men. After the form we've been in, we need to sort ourselves out. The last thing we want, when I'm already moaning about the amount of games we're going to play this year, is a replay. Oliveira doing his best there to save us from a replay by throwing the ball towards his own goal. We've got 2 players in there covering. 10 minutes left, and we still need to grab a goal against 9 men. Piazza can come off now. Let's get Alonso on. We're going with Alonso and Ganley with Nuhu in behind, that's goals there. All three of them have been scoring goals for fun in recent weeks. So hopefully, between the three of them, they can muster a goal up now. I don't know that they've ever played in this combination before. Usually Piazza is in there somewhere, and often when Alonso scores, he's doing it as part of a front three, because usually by the time Alonso's come on, he's often coming on for Nuhu now, and we're switching to three up front with Alonso becoming one of the three. And then Jones might come on for Ganley later in the game, and we'll do a very terrifying looking front three of Piazza, Jones and Alonso to just keep Nuhu resting because he's an old man now. But it looks like, for all this talk of how good we've been and how good we are going forward and goals, we're gonna be taken to a replay by 9-man West Ham. Sretenovic to cross for our last opportunity. Ruzic picks it up on the edge of the area, squares it towards anybody, but nobody gets anywhere near it. Barbas out to Cutler. We've got 30 seconds. Tate nods down again to nobody in particular, and it's Barbas on the edge of the area. 20 seconds left on the clock. Cutler, what is he thinking? We have all those players in the middle, just cross the ball. Instead, he has a terrible shot, and it's replay central, boys and girls, and I don't understand how we've got to this point. Wowzers. Hopefully we're just saving the goals for the Newcastle game so I can show you that we're not rubbish. It might be time to stop rotating in the FA Cup and start taking it seriously, but ultimately I don't care if we win that. I want to keep players fresh and everyone in form to give us the best shot of winning the Champions League. And sometimes I'll get it wrong, like in that match. Let's go and play Newcastle. Back to a first choice team-ish for the Newcastle game then. We've got Harry's in goal. Back four, Sretenovic, Taraka, Day and Cupler, with Wanda, Ruzic and Caminero in midfield, and Serenok Nuhu in behind Alonso and Piazza. It was a bit of a coin flip between Alonso and Ganley to go alongside Piazza, but I think Ganley is the man, and I'm saving him. Plus, it's all about trying to keep Alonso in form, and I'm more likely to play Ganley and Piazza together. Ganley and Piazza start against Hibs if they're both fit. Ganley has now been added into our Champions League squad after my slight mess up at the start of the season. Although, to be fair, at the start of the season, I didn't think he'd be one of my first choice strikers. So I let myself off a little bit for not having him in the squad initially. But him and Piazza start both games against Hibs. So now, because our goal is Champions League, it's all about trying to go into those two games against Hibs with those two players 100% fit and in cracking form, whilst still having a decent option off the bench if we need it, whilst not messing up the league. This is a team that should be strong enough to beat Newcastle. I mean, I thought as one last opportunity on this series that, you know, often we have a good run of form off camera, and then on camera we mess things up because we play a couple of big games, and it's like, oh yeah, but we did play a couple of big games. I thought, you know what, West Ham and Newcastle, we should be fairly safe to at least show you one last time we are a good side before it all goes wrong and we get knocked out of the Champions League and we pretend FM18 never happened. But if we somehow manage to, I mean, potentially we could go through these two games and not even score a goal. Piazza's picked up an injury as well, which ruins my master plan, because if that's an injury, remember the reason we were knocked out of the Champions League last year, I'm blaming it completely on the fact that Piazza was injured for the two games that we got knocked out in, and without him we weren't the same team. If that's a big boy injury, let's have a little look what's wrong with him. Potential foot injury, so that's going to be one that keeps him out for 3 months. He's probably got a broken foot, hasn't he? Do we take him off now and just sacrifice this game, or do we leave him on to try and drag us back into this game? No, we don't care about this game. We get Ganley on now. And we go with the front three that was so effective against West Ham for those last 20 minutes. Piazza, last chance for a moment of brilliance, and it's with Caminero. Cross comes towards Alonso, but it's far too long, and Alonso doesn't get it under control anyway, and then falls over his own feet, which is brilliant. Charlie Jones is just sat there on the bench giggling. Ever since we got that phone call from Charlie Jones's agent, he's been sabotaging us from within. How is this happening? I showed you a schedule that was covered in green dots. I haven't even closed the gap. I've played that series of games this morning. I'm recording this right now. It's 2:15 on Friday afternoon. I've been playing this game since 10:30 this morning. It's been win after win after win after win, and I was just biding my time thinking, when do I show them this incredible form? You know what? We may as well do the full transfer window. None of these games really matter. The Champions League is what it's all about. Let's get to the point where we'll just finish off the transfer window, and then we can show them this incredible form that we've been in, and everyone's going to pat you on the back and say, well done, Kev. You didn't need to spend money in January because look how good this team is. You're a genius. Now I make the decision not to sign anybody in January, and all of a sudden our form falls apart. We can't beat 9 men West Ham, and now we're losing away from home against Newcastle, and I give up. I give up. I don't understand. Oh, and it's not our strongest team because we didn't have Ganley in from the start. We haven't got Ripett in. It's still not our absolute strongest team. We've not got Roberts in at left back, although we're never going to have him again. He's basically deleted as far as this series is concerned because he's never going to be fit enough to play for us again. But it should be a team that could have won this game. Nuhu in behind now, and it's straight at the Newcastle keeper. We've now had 2 clear-cut chances each. We are officially being mugged by Newcastle. I'm hoping this is just for old time's sake, and this is going to be our final mugging of FM18, our final epic disappointment. And from now, next week, the final week of Backing the Boro, next week is just going to be bathing in a pool of glory as we win, and finally end up with that Carabao Cup that we've wanted all along. And if we happen to win a Champions League and a Premier League and an FA Cup to go with it, that's all a bonus. But I'm sure we'll all agree that this save will be considered a success if we end this season with a Carabao Cup win. Because even getting to the Carabao Cup final means it's pretty much already there as a successful series. Let's get Charlie Jones on for Alonso, and we'll do our 2 English strikers on together. We're going to swap them over. We're going to have Ganley supporting Jones, and this is the future of England up front now. Jones is already a well-established England player at this point. Ganley yet to make his England debut, and it's fairly rare for me to have a player establish themselves in my team before they're established internationally. But it's just the nature of not having any international breaks while this run of form from Ganley's been going on. I assume he's in the next England squad, or else I don't understand how England squads work. But we've been so poor in this game. Oh, imagine if the England managers watch this to decide whether or not to pick the pair of them. We're not going to have any strikers in the England squad at this rate. Oh, we didn't score a single goal in that episode. That's hideous. We beat Man City 7-2. Can we all focus on that as this episode draws to a close? Oh, dirty. Right, Monday, we're going to have the big one, the Carabao Cup final, and probably the second leg of Hibs. And then we take the rest of the season from there. It's going to be touch and go, isn't it? If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.